Peace, family. It's your brother Marc Lamont Hill. You're listening to the Classroom and the Cell podcast. I am joined by the esteemed scholar from North Philadelphia. His name is
Mumia Abu Jamal.
I like it. You put a little sauce on it, man. It sounded sophisticated.
Trying to get my French taste.
There you go, man. Let me ask you a question. I saw in the news earlier in the week, Congressman Jamal Bowman, a black man, congressman from New York, also part of the so-called squad, the progressive wing of the Democratic Party. He advanced an idea for I believe it was $17 trillion reparations bill.
This is a call from
Pennsylvania State Correctional Institution, Mahanoy.
This call is subject to recording and monitoring.
You know what that reminds me of?
Yeah, what? No, I was going to tell the audience real quick. 17 trillion, and in his mind, that would be about 300. The breakdown would be about $337,000 per person. It might be phased in its distribution, but $337,000 per black person. It's a $14 trillion reparations bill. What do you make of that?
Well, I believe in reparations, of course, having studied for most of my adult life and my teenage years, African American history. But what it reminded me of, frankly, is one of the last works by Dr. Martin Luther King, his book, Why We Can't Wait, in which he says that all the money in Fort Knox could not repair the damages that black people have suffered in the United States. So I tend to agree. As a political figure, I commend him for coming out and saying that, and I know he'll catch hell for that. However,
oh yeah, they on his ass already. Fox News all have been mocking him.
17, it should be at best 2.
This is a call from
Pennsylvania State Correctional Institution, Mahanoy.
This call is subject to recording and monitoring.
And the racists are saying we owe them money.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, we took them out of Africa. What more do you want?
Yeah, I mean, there are literally people saying the Civil War was our reparations, that America paid reparations by having a civil war. I've heard them say that.
I know, but here's the problem. Of course, you know, as a scholar, that after Reconstruction, 10, 15 years after Reconstruction, you had the violation of the promises of Reconstruction, and people weren't allowed to do anything that was promised, both in the Constitution and in laws, because the so-called lost cause became the law of much of the land. And black people couldn't vote. Senators and congressmen were kicked out of Congress. And, of course, for 100 years thereafter, black people were denied the right to vote. And what happens right after Reconstruction? Well, the teens of the 20th century, our esteemed colleague W.B. Du Bois said, what black people suffered throughout the North and the South and the East and the West was what he called red summers. And they were race riots against black people for daring to try to get a job, or daring to move up north, or daring to, walk while we're black.
Right. Acting all like a citizen.
Yeah, acting like, you're uppity Negro. Right?
Yeah.
That was a capital offense, bro. So, no amount of money can ever repay black people for what they've suffered here in the West. And
but it helps.
Bowman says that he's talking about one country. There isn't a country over here in the West that did not, and in most of Europe, that did not build their wealth on the backs of African people.
That's right. That's right. And that's why I think, while it's an almost incalculable debt, it's also quite calculable, right? When we look at the universities, the insurance companies, the railroad companies, the cotton industry. You know, we start loading up all this stuff. We can at least arrive. Yeah, right.
Churches.
Churches, yes. We can arrive at a number. We can arrive at a number that at least gets us somewhere. And unlike the liberal approach, which has been to say, well, black people deserve something, so let's just invest in their communities, which is like the neoliberal, investment strategy, or the Reagan rising tide, let's all boat strategy. Yeah. Instead of saying that, saying no, Negroes need a check, and specifically from where I sit, Negroes who are descendants of American slavery in particular. Not to say no disrespect to our brothers and sisters from other places. I think they also have a justice claim, through the various institutions in states from which they were, in which their ancestors were enslaved. But at the core, we need to do something for people who are the descendants of slavery and the victims of American slavery. And I think that there's a lack of political will to do this, and also there's a lack of faith and hope that it can happen. And I think part of our work on the ground organizing has to be to get people to believe, one, that we deserve it, but again, two, that it's possible, because I know people will be like, yeah, we deserve it, but that shit ain't never going to happen, so I'm not going to waste my time. It can happen. It happened for Japanese folk. It's happened for, it's happened around the world, but in the United States it's happened.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely. For everybody,
let's do it.
African people. Right.
Right. How about that? How about that?
I mean, can I give you a classic reparations?
Yeah,
story?
yeah, please.
All right. I told you my old man taught me how to read using the Bible. Good country brother, and his big-headed son, and he loved seeing me read, and so I love hearing him read, and being with my dad. And when I read the Bible and read about Jewish people being enslaved in Egypt, right? You remember their reparations? And it says in the Bible, we spoiled the Egyptians. They took everything that was movable, bruh. You hear me?
Everything that was movable.
And no one contests that biblical tale, right? It's part of the Judeo-Christian common knowledge, and no one questions it. Now historians, of course, may question it, but in terms of its biblical power, we thought of ourselves, right?
Yeah.
As the Israelis in the land of bondage, which was America.
Right. And that's what I'm saying. We have religious precedents for people who believe in the faith traditions. We have political and diplomatic precedents and legal precedents. If that's the path we've taken, it's like there's all these ways that we could go, and we go there, except for Negroes. And
that's right.
I think that that's something that we have to press, and seeing Jamal Bowman and others starting to speak up about it is important. Joe Biden in the 70s very adamantly said that he opposed reparations. He basically
wasn't just 70s.
No. He's gotten
Yeah.
smarter about it though. Now I don't know if his politics have gotten any better, but he don't say the quiet part out loud no more. At least not on that
Right.
issue. And that's enabled him to kind of punt, as he did when he ran for president. He never said he supported it. I pressed Joe Biden's campaign team on my show, and they kind of just punted. They wouldn't give a straight answer. I challenged Bernie directly, and Bernie said, well, we'll invest in. He doesn't really believe in it, but
No.
he said we should just invest in black communities, and basically like a democratic socialist kind of perspective. So he didn't oppose it, but he didn't really have a concrete plan that would create it. But what I tell people, Moo, that I think is important is that in the age of COVID, we have learned, if nothing else, what is possible. It's like Dr. King in '67 when he said, only when it is darkest can we see the stars. At the dark moment in 2001, when we were scared, we were sick, we were trying to figure out what to do. I mean, better than me. There were a whole lot of folk, particularly more in jails than prisons, but once COs started getting sick and police started getting COVID, they were like, maybe we don't have to lock everybody up. Maybe we don't have to stop that guy on the street. maybe he's a minor offender. Maybe we can let some people out that aren't going to reoffend. Oh, maybe the guy with weed doesn't need to get searched because I might get sick. Suddenly, we got real abolitionists when they were getting sick. And similarly, when American capitalism was vulnerable, the state found $1 trillion that they couldn't find before. They found a couple $1 trillion. And they started giving them stimulus checks out. And before, when reparations, like, well, how do we find the names? Where do we get the money? How do we know who to give it to? When they needed American capitalism not to die, they found the names. They found them checks. They found a way. It's all possible when they want it to be. So I no longer accept that we can't do reparations. I never did, but now they can't even lean on that lie because the state has shown, they tipped their hand. They've shown what
you have 1 minute left.
Well, the saying is that where there's a will, there's a way. The question is there a will? And, what is the root of reparations? To repair. And the damage was so cosmic, right? No other people have lost everything and continue to live. Our language, our religion, our tribal way of life, our everything. We're the only people in American history that it was a capital offense to learn how to read. Dang.
Right.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
That's crazy.
But that's why we're going to keep fighting because we're going to, they don't have the will, but we're going to make the interest of the state converge with us. We're going to fight until they have to do it because they ain't never going to want to do it.
There you go. Speak the truth.
That's it, man. Love you, my brother.
I love you, brother. Always a pleasure.
Pleasure's mine, man. On the move.
Thank you for using Securus. Goodbye.
Everybody, you've been listening to the Classroom and the Cell podcast with Mumia Abu Jamal and myself, Marc Lamont Hill. Make sure you check out the page on YouTube. Go to Marc Lamont Hill official YouTube channel. You can check out all of our conversations, every episode of the Classroom and the Cell podcast. You can also check out other important content on the page. If you're so inclined, you can also subscribe to the channel. You can join the channel to provide monthly support to the podcast. And if you want, you can also just go to MLHTV on Cash App. Go to Cash App, $MLHTV, and make any donation from $1 to whatever you want to help support the platform. And if you want the funds to go exclusively to Mumia, just note it, and it will happen. Love y'all. See y'all soon. On the move.